The way you approach your culture victories, or any game really, is similar to each other because you start off with building out and focusing on holy sites, right? And then switch into commercial hubs. And then at some point, transition to a district type that is specific to that victory. So campus for science or theater, square for culture, right?
Yeah, and it's a matter of growing. So like you can only grow certain yields at certain times. Early game, you can't really focus culture in a super early game. The most you can do is like a monument. You can focus on growing faith, and faith is like a universal yield that you can just use to expand and all that. So that's why an early holy site is such a strong play. It's not like you need a ton of faith super early. It doesn't do anything for like the first 40 turns. But once you can start using faith, having it banked up is great. The commercial hub, obviously you want that because trade routes help you grow up to your next districts, help your new cities grow. But it's just a matter of what can you do at the time that's going to advance your victory.
Because you do want to generate enough faith for monumentality dedication, right? I mean,
yes.
One of the huge advantages of faith is to be able to buy settlers and builders with faith. But that's the little balance there, right? How early do you have to generate faith, and how much of it do you want to have for your first golden age, right? Because if you arrive into your golden age and your faith is like abysmal, then you can't really buy anything, and it's kind of a sort of a waste, I guess. But units are still cheaper to buy with gold.
Well, monumentality is always the right choice for a classical era. And I would even say if you were playing a religious game, I would still go monumentality, just because the 20% discount on purchase price for gold and faith is so huge. Even if you don't have any faith, off the top of the cost of any civilian unit. That by itself is stronger going into the classical era.
Let's see what you do in this game, because this, and we can actually preface it with a disclaimer that this culture game was done in 188 turns. Standard speed, standard huge map. But everything else is standard rules. There is no...
This is just a default game that I think we loaded. We both liked the look of the start screen and we played. There's no game modes. There's no, we didn't min-max anything. It was just hey, this looks ridiculous.
Yeah, and I already moved over, but we started on the Plains Hill right there in the rainforest and just moved over. Because Soger pointed out, the cows there, the cattle, will provide you 3 food right away. And you're going to be able to reach the diamonds right there and trade them early.
Yeah, and I pointed that out right away when we looked at it, is that you'd have 2 tiles to work. The three growth would get you those the 2 tiles worked sooner. And you keep all the production shops intact.
And you start with the mining immediately, right?
Yep, because you got the 2 mining luxuries that are first science tier luxuries. So,
And it's funny that you mentioned that I'm starting with the mining, I'm going into diamonds, and I'm going to build a builder as my second build after the scout. You start with the scout naturally, pretty much every game, right? And then you decide, well, should it be a double scout opening, which I went with, by the way, or in this case, I got confused because I thought the diamonds are in the rainforest. I never checked the tiles, meaning that I would need bronze working to even build a mine, but it's not the case here, right? It's just straight up.
That's not how that works either. You don't need, even if they were in the rainforest, you still just need mining. How much of this game have you played?
Hold on a second. I will have to double check that because I could swear. Is it just the rainforest chopping? Then
it's just to chop it. Yes.
I might have delayed a bunch of my games like that.
Listen, have you played this game before?
I know, right? This is my first time. From the news perspective, I'm looking at your choice of government here, right?
Yeah.
And you, who focuses on faith so much, in this case, you're picking urban planning. Why is that?
I almost never pick God King because let's start off. The pantheons I focus on generally aren't picked by the AI, so I'm usually pretty comfortable there.
So you usually pick like the culture, plantation, pantheon, or the
Yeah,
pasture.
I usually go like one of
Goddess
the culture
festivals, right?
pantheons.
Open sky.
Yeah, or production and food to camps is a fallback of mine,
Okay.
which goes faster. And yeah, it for me speaking so highly of faith, it would seem, oh, well, why aren't you going God King? It's once again what's going to help you most long term, and that +1 production is such a huge boost early
Mhm.
because even if you're working a 2/2 tile, that's like it's only one production, but super early, you're adding 50% on your production with that tile.
Absolutely. And then you go with the double experience for recon units, right?
Yep.
And that's something that also I haven't been doing before, but now I do, because if you start with a scout, it kind of makes sense, right? So that
Yeah.
they can move around the map faster, earning those promotions. Because discipline is usually a
yeah.
default choice, because you're going to
Exactly.
encounter barbs so fast and so early. After turn 7, I guess the barb scout's supposed to appear. But this choice of policies is sort of new to me. That's why I was like, wow, that's interesting, but it works.
And this goes back to like what I was saying, like why do you start with a holy site? Why do you build a commercial hub? And then why on turn 70 or 100 are you building your first campus or theater square? Well, because if you build a campus, you're done. Yeah, you're getting more science. If you build a theater square, you're done. Yeah, you're getting more culture, but it doesn't do anything to grow your empire. It gets you the yield, and that's it. The double scout experience grows, because if you get that first promotion, which is super easy with double experience, it goes faster, which is exponential growth. The second you can move like over a hill or through a wood without it costing 2 movement, you're exploring that much faster, which is getting you that much more era score. And like you've said before, you struggle. Ancient Era is brutal on era score some games, and the easiest way to get era score is a scout. Like you get tribal villages, you find wonders, civilizations. Like that's where you're getting your era score.
Yeah, you know what? And it's funny because because I played this game as well. Obviously, I finished with like turn 255, whatever.
Yeah.
And I had to replay it because it wasn't going well at first. So I had to replay it, and I went with double scout for that reason, because I didn't reach my golden age the first try. I figured, to your point, I'm gonna go with double scouts and explore as much as I can and pick up as many villages as I can to get that era score. And it worked. I barely squeezed myself through, but I was watching your game, and dude, you had no trouble, because this RNG stuff, or just the way you approach the game, is so different that era score just naturally accumulates for you, from different things that I was like, I would never get era score from that, But let's talk about the location here too, because now you explored a little bit of the map and it looks amazing. Like,
it's absolutely beautiful. The second, I had no idea what I was doing for a Pantheon at the beginning of this, so I was doubly not concerned about it. The second I moved north and saw those double sugar tiles, I was like, oh, this is cultured plantations 100%. Like that, like you're getting 2 more culture up there. And just the amount of luxuries here.
But my thought was, all right, I found these 2 plantations. I mean, I probably uncovered more map during the same number of turns because I had 2 scouts. But I couldn't find more plantation at that point. So my Pantheon came much earlier, right? Because I was playing God King I used God King policy.
Yeah.
And it's probably a mistake, right? In the long term, because I haven't uncovered enough map to make a decision whether there are enough plantations. So I went with the mining Pantheon that gives you 2 faith. So I immediately started earning like a bunch of faith, actually. In the long run, your decision definitely came up on top because culture is king.
Yeah. Well, and it's the biggest thing is 4 faith is huge early game. That falls apart really quick. 2 culture from those mines. 2 culture is a lot of culture for a long part of the game. Like people
You mean
don't
from the
realize.
plantations?
Yeah,
Mhm.
like if you're looking at pantheons, if you can get 2 more culture, that is so much more culture than the equivalent of 4 faith. If you think of how much easier it is to get faith versus culture, and
Mhm.
that's one thing and that's why I value those pantheons so highly. Is like it's sort of deceptive how hard it is to get culture. So even if you're only getting 3 or 4 per turn, like what are your sources of culture in game? They're so minimal that yeah, and that's why I value it so much.
And here you already met Basil.
Yeah, which was
Immediately,
terrible.
well, he's so close, right?
Yeah,
And it's terrifying because Basil is basically, I mean, I don't know when he wouldn't go to war with you because his agenda is if you're following anything else, he's going to
yeah.
declare war. Plus AI, whenever they're so close, I mean, I don't know how many tiles we're looking at there. You're
They're going to go to war.
the
Yeah,
risk of war.
and he is a militaristic AI too.
Mhm.
There's different sorts of AIs, and he is the type that will do a domination victory focus at the start.
And so, to mitigate that, you manage AI relations very, very carefully because with
Yeah,
the culture game, you aim to make sure you are friends on deity level, at least. Because
yeah.
I saw your Congo game, by the way. Please watch his Congo game that he got culture victory in like 50 turns, I think, on King, granted.
It's on
But
king
it's a
difficulty.
different style of and
It was
strategy
a
there.
symphonat. Let me get that. Let me put out there. It was a symphonatics game, and they alternate the difficulty.
But the point is that you adjusted your strategy enough on that level of difficulty to make it go so fast and efficient, you know?
Yeah,
Here you send Basil a delegation. Now,
yeah,
other things that you do, right, that gives you +3 right away.
yeah.
We can't control the first impression. By the way,
There's nothing you can
let
do
me
to
see
the
if I
first
can.
impression.
Nothing,
And
right? Because some say that maybe it's the scout or a war versus the warrior that you meet the civ for the first time, but it doesn't make sense at all. Or it doesn't have any impact.
I have never seen that. Like, I think that is coincidence. I think that people find more civilizations with scouts overall. So, like, if it's a random situation, it's randomly going to happen more often to the one that you find the you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you find more civilizations with a scout, you're going to see it happen more often with a scout. But that's
Okay.
just not accurate.
Well, and then you immediately probably start to think of what other things I can do
Yeah.
to pacify Basil, right? And we have these
Yeah.
options that are already in the dialogue, you know,
Which are-
for favorable trade, which is what? Basically gifting them
Yeah,
a
just
bunch
give
of
them
gold.
shit. Yeah, just give them free stuff.
But is it gold or is it also trading resources?
It's anything that they value, they have to value it. So a lot of times,
And
if
how would
have,
you determine that?
They buy it.
Okay.
So let's say you offer them a luxury for sale,
Okay.
and they'll buy that luxury for 10 gold per turn.
Okay.
If you sell it to them for 5 gold per turn, you're giving them a 5 gold gift. So you'll get the gold per turn equivalent of positive disposition with them. One, never give bulk gold. If you're trying to get free positive disposition with the AI, never give bulk gold. If they declare war on you, you don't get your bulk gold back. If you give gold per turn, the AI gives you full value of the gold per turn. So if you give them 1 gold per turn, it's the same as 30 bulk gold. And if they declare war on you, you get your gold per turn back. Eventually, I do send a gold per turn gift to Basil, if I'm not mistaken. I was trying to write it out. It's also why I always go foreign trade into early empire in the culture tree. Because if you send them an international trade route, that can be that gives you +1 disposition with them. But also open borders, if you sell your open borders, not only do you get the gold from the sale, the AI also gets +3 disposition, which is the exact same as a delegation. So if you're there we go.
Yeah,
I
here
sent
it's 4 gold, right, per
Yeah.
turn because it's over 100. I think lump sum you can give him 100.
Yeah.
But to your point, you're risking that losing that
Yeah.
gold. Whereas
I'm losing if he declares war on me in 10 turns, I've lost 40 gold.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, and then
So-
immediately you get +3 for that favorable trade.
And I sent that gift because when we were talking about this, you were shocked that I forward settled him. Right, I sent my first settler right into his face and forward settled him. And I was like, well, yeah, I was working on early empire and I sent him a gift. I know that forward settling is going to give me a -5, -6 negative disposition with them. So I need to be able to counteract that with the open borders, with the gift, with the delegation.
No, and the fact that you're forward selling Basil on Deity on like turn 20, that was
with a slinger.
with a slinger, right?
Yep.
I mean, it was kind of shocking to me, but then looking at the location where the settler is moving, because you were planning to settle the sugar, right?
Yep.
And then you're hoping, because you're going to have 4 food right away, so the city is going to grow like crazy, right? So you're hoping to push Basil with loyalty.
Oh yeah, right away when I saw that and I saw how close it was, that's why I'm also working on the trade route right away. Is I want to get my population up as fast as possible, because with Basil's capital right there, if I push them back and in theory, if I can get friendship with them, I know that my cities are going to grow faster than the AI because I'm better at growing population early than the AI. And if he doesn't get a golden age, I'm going to start flipping his cities with loyalty early, because look at there's 2 4-food tiles. Plus there's floodplains all around, which means if there's a flood, there's a high likelihood you're going to get more food added to them. I mean, that's just like a pure growth city.
And then there is a bunch of rainforest that you can chop for more food. Right?
Which is the first thing I do is I chop out those rainforests to get my government.
Which didn't really like propel your population though, because you chopped it kind of early and it didn't seem to earn.
It got me enough though. It got me, I think, 1 population.
Yeah.
And it's once again, I keep going back to it. Yeah, it doesn't do a lot, but at that stage of the game, it does a lot. 1 population at turn 20 is huge compared to 1 population at turn 100. You know, like it's not doing a lot, but stage of the game, it's doing a lot.
Mm-hmm. And then you identify copper right away that you want to chop, because there's always a question, right? Like, do we chop resources? Do we keep resources? And copper is one of those resources that you should probably chop immediately. You get that gold, you can use it.
Yeah, copper, maize, those 2 should always be chopped. I end up working the maize tiles in this game, but that's only because I was running a very specific, I just want to grow that city and keep pushing them with loyalty. But copper and maize are almost never worth working. And also I wanted to build the holy site there, which is also why I started with mining, because 1, you could chop the holy site location with it, and 2, there was the double luxury. There was like no doubt about it.
I mean, I still like, you know, it was such a gamble, in my opinion, to forward settle like that without, I mean, I guess because you're making so much gold, right, at this location, you feel confident enough that at some point you're just going to bribe him, right?
Yeah, exactly. I knew the
but
worst
even
case
then,
scenario.
right? But even then, even if you bribe him, you're still kind of, there's this RNG thing, right? Or not?
Yep. Well, there are games where I have given them 10 gold per turn. You have the green friendly smiley face, and they refuse to accept friendship forever.
See, this is a moment where you have 2 warriors and a slinger on your border.
Yeah, I had 0 concerns at this point, because if you look, the 1 unit on the left there is injured. He's fighting a barbarian. This is where, if you understand how the AI thinks, that unit's damaged.
Yeah, but this is where you start bribing him double.
Oh yeah, I go heavy. I'm like, oh well,
I mean, look at that, +6 for the trade deals, right?
yep.
And then you're gonna
But
save up a little
I
bit
knew
more
I had
gold
a
and trade more.
yeah. I knew I had a few more turns because he would want to eliminate the barbarian before he declared war on me. But that was at most a few turns.
And here's
But,
another, right? And there you go again,
Yeah.
giving up the gold to just pacify Basil. Because if you don't do that, and guys, I played the same game, and I did not do that, and the war was declared, and I basically lost really quickly, and I had to replay it. This is exactly what happened in my game.
But let's do the math. I gave him what 12 gold per turn now. That's what I've given him, right?
And look, and now he's not frowning, right? Now
Yeah.
you notice that he is actually changing his disposition.
So that's 360 gold I have now given him. That's the cost of one settler. So for the cost of a settler and 40 gold after the fact, he's neutral. And
it allows you to keep that amazing city potential. You're right.
Exactly.
Amazing city to push with loyalty later. Strategically, it's an amazing move.
Yep. And also, if you look at it, okay, which one is more valuable? 360 gold or not going to war?
Right.
If you go to war and you buy 2 warriors, that's 320 gold. You buy 2 slingers, that's 280 gold. You're going to break 360 gold, whether you spend it with production, like regardless of how you acquire your units to defend yourself, you're going to spend more than 360 gold worth of resources. Like the second you go to war, all forward progression stops, and now you have to deal with the war.
Once you deal with the war, there's such a high risk of you just losing the game altogether, right?
Well, yeah.
I mean, because on Deity, they start with so many units, and that distracts you from the development. There is no way you can, it's much harder to catch up with the AI. So, for
and
sure.
I also, just in case people haven't appreciated this, I still have built no military. And I met Alexander right after Basil.
That's right.
And I still was like, nope, not
yeah. Let's just
anything.
make it a point how Alexander 2 militaristic civs, right on the borders there, and Soger is working them diplomatically to win them over. Because let me tell you, in like 10, I don't know, whatever turns, every single one of those civs will be friendly. Which is, it's amazing. You have to like appreciate, but what do you do when you don't have gold, right? Like that game would be so much different.
If I didn't have the gold per turn, I would have settled the southern city. Like, let's say I would have settled the southern city before. There's no way I would have pulled off that forward settle. That was me reading the map and knowing that I had the gold per turn. But the reality is you have to know the things that add positive and you have to know the things that add negative to the disposition.
Yeah, and it's funny because we just noticed, there is an unknown reason for Alex. And I think that might have came from you destroying the camp that was pretty decently close to his borders. Maybe? Because unknown reason, it just doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah, because the hidden agenda was he was happy about removing the camp. Yes. One of them is removing barbarians, and you'll always know that because they'll say something like, "Oh, we're really happy."
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's really important to like notice that stuff because that is informing all of my decision making. Like when you on face value, a lot of these decisions seem insane.
Well, then see, Basil is green now.
Yep. And at that point, I think I say it almost every game I'm recording. Well, I've won now because I get friendship
here. There we go.
And I'm now 100% not concerned because Alexander is. We are so defensively positioned for Alexander, he can't do anything.
Yeah.
If he moved to war, I would be able to defend that with a slinger. Like a slinger, I could bring a scout out. I would just buy the cheapest units possible and defend that river, and there's nothing that's going to happen.